It's so banging. Whatever kind of horn section you play in, jazz, soul, funk, pop, big band, whatever it is, you're going to love today's video because I've got 3 pro tips for you, which is really going to up your game on how good you are on a horn section. It's going to be an awesome time. We're going to get straight into it. I'm going to play some awesome clips and keep watching to the end because I've got some bonus clips and a really, really valuable free gift for you. Let's get straight into it. All right, check out the technology I've got going on today. So let's start at the beginning. And before we even get to the first tip, here is like a pre-tip, which is the #1 most important thing that you need to know if you want to be a fantastic horn section player. And that is that you have to listen like a fiend. It's listening which is going to give you that blend and that togetherness, which is really going to make you the best section player you can possibly be. So when horn sections listen, it's like the shoals of fish that you see moving like one entity, or the murmuration of starlings that you see in the sky, you know, when they move as one item. That's what happens in the horn section when you get a really good horn section. Everyone is listening to each other really closely, and you just blend, and 1 + 1 + 1 becomes 10. It's just exponential how good it can get. So remember, listen to yourself 50% and listen to everybody else 50%. Maybe even listen to everybody else more and more and more as you get familiar with the music that you're playing. So ultimately, you know, you're almost listening 99% to everybody else instead of to yourself. So I've got a little example of when I used to play in Incognito, which is a great example of a horn section where we used to be just gig hardened and really move as one entity. This is a little live clip from Nights Over Egypt. Check it out. So it was only recorded on my phone, but you can really hear that the swells and the cut-offs, and we really sound like we're phrasing like one entity. So let's go straight on with the first tip of the day for sounding like an absolute pro in your horn section. And that is, before you even step into the horn section, you have to be able to phrase well on your own. That is step 1. You're not going to sound good in a section if you don't even sound good in the practice room on your own. So you have to learn the technical aspects, the basics, okay? And here are some of the basics you have to learn. Let me just smash through these. Clean, crispy articulation. What am I talking about? Clean, crispy articulation. This is what I mean. It's what I call transparent. There's no glitches when you start a note. There's no glitches when you finish a note. And the articulation is nice and percussive and punchy and clean and free of any spit and deviations in pitch and timbre. You know, like, or really smudgy kind of. The note comes in crisp and clean and immediate. Okay, and you'll see in a minute. I'll say that all this is in phrase like a pro. I did a whole course on this, which you can check out. This isn't a pitch, don't worry. So cutoffs. What are cutoffs? Well, cutoffs are something different from what you do when you're playing on your own. Like, you seldom use a cutoff when you're playing on your own. A cutoff is when you're playing a note and then you stop the note with your tongue back on the reed. So. And when you do your cutoff, it has to be an immediate shutdown of the sound. There's no fading off. Okay? And you're not just turning off the note with your breath. You stop it dead with your tongue. So where's my big mouthpiece thing? You play the note, and at the end of the note, you go, chick, and you shut that sound off dead. And you shut it off at a predetermined point. Okay? And when everyone does that, it sounds really percussive. We're going to get to that in a minute. So, dynamics and swells. Can you make your note go loud, soft, loud, swell quiet, without the pitch changing or the sound changing too much. For example, can you go... without it going... you know, like really glitchy. So you have to be able to create different volume levels, but still have a really good sound and not your intonation go all over the place. That's something that you can work on your own. Is my chair a bit squeaky? Feels like I've got some sort of animal in my chair right now. Okay, so that's dynamics and swells. Then grace notes, scoops and bends. You must be able to do clean bends into notes. And if you can't, then you should always use grace notes. So if you can't go... you should go... rather than attempt it with a really dodgy bend and go... okay, that is a really beginnery thing to do, those kind of horrible bends. I used to call them the dreaded lip scoops. Sometimes I call them and now I just call them the dreaded BWOWs, okay? Lots of reasons why that happens. But if you can't do that nice fat scoop, then do a grace note, which is fine. You must be able to play in time. If you can't play in time on your own, your section playing is going to be nowhere. And then there's a few technical things like turns. There's a lot of turns in horn section stuff. If your turns are really clumsy, you know, you're never going to sound good in a section. And then falls, which is the hardest thing of all to do. Nobody can do these falls, and it's because nobody practices their scales enough. You can only put your fingers down quickly if you've practiced your scales. Okay, so there's two types of falls. It's a fingered fall where you move your fingers, and there's an embouchure fall where you just drop your embouchure. So that's not moving my fingers. That's moving my fingers. And the secret of a good fall is that the volume tapers off evenly and that your fingers go down in an exact sequence. So otherwise it sounds like, you know, you're kicking your trainers down the stairs. That's not what you want. So they are all the technical things that you must be able to do well on your own before you become a horn section pro. Now, scattered through this little presentation, I've got just a few examples I can think of some of the greatest horn playing that you'll ever hear. Here is We Can Work It Out by Chaka. Can't check this out. Quincy Jones production. Here we go. It's so banging. So, yeah, that's one of my favourite ever moments of horn section stuff. And then, how could you talk about horn sections without talking about the one and only, get my tech in order, Kool and the Gang. It's got one of the most iconic horn sections of all time, and one of their most iconic songs is Open Sesame. Shazam! This is everything that we're talking about. It's really tight. It's really together. They're phrasing like one. Remember those, you know, like those starlings moving as one. This is a perfect example. Okay, one more bit. It's so good, man. Kool and the Gangs. Open Sesame, what a jam. All right, let's move on to tip number 2. Tip number 2 is to make sure that you pay attention to the basics in your section. Now, tip 1 was make sure that you've got clean articulation yourself in the practice room. The big tip for number 2 is to make sure that everybody in your section is doing the same thing. Now, this isn't the fancy stuff. This is just to make sure that everyone is on the same page, okay? And it's so important. So let's go through some of this stuff. This is some of the most basic things which can make the biggest difference to how good your horn section sounds. So if you play in a pub band or a blues band, if you play in a big band, community band, gospel band, jazz combo, you name it. If you just all get together and pay attention to these few things, believe me, you're going to sound exponentially better. So simple things like the longs and the shorts and the slurs. Have you got the Morse code dialed in? Are you doing shorts? Short. Are you doing longs? Long. And how are you slurring it? So let's think of a little riff. So if I did something like, you need to make sure that everybody is going da da da, and if people are going, you ain't going to sound good. In fact, you're going to sound terrible. So this whole thing about sounding good in a horn section is very polarized, in fact. One person who's playing a long note, even if there's 5 others, 10 others playing a short note, one person can ruin it all. I don't want to be mean, but one person can ruin it all. You don't want to be that person that everyone's secretly thinking, ugh, they're really bringing the level down. You want to be the one who is on point and phrasing with everybody else. And sometimes it's just the basic stuff which can make you sound good. Everybody needs to cut off at the same point. So when you're doing a long note in a horn section, you need to know when that note finishes. If everyone's tapering off at different times, you're never going to sound good. Everyone needs to do the dynamics and swells. Now that comes hand in hand with doing the cut-offs. Okay, one person that's going blah when everyone else is going you're gonna ruin it. So this is the sad truth about horn sections. You're only as good as the weakest person in the section. Do not be that person. All right. Accents. Which notes are accented? Which notes are you bringing back or even half-tongued? Note shaping. Who's doing this? Are you going to do scoops? If you're going to do scoops into it, they need to be together. All that kind of thing. And if you're not doing a scoop, don't do a scoop. Right? Simple common sense. Common sense. Simple common sense. Right. And obviously the big one is tuning, which I guess I should have mentioned in the basics for your own practice room. If someone's out of tune, you're going to bring the whole section down. All right. So let's talk about another awesome piece of horn section playing by one of the most awesome horn section bands of all time, which is Tower of Power. Now, here's the interesting thing about this selection, which I've got for you here, and that is that I'm going to play Oakland Stroke by Tower of Power, but this is from a live broadcast at the Ultrasonic Studios, and it's bone dry and live, so there's no studio trickery here. This is what they sounded like just playing it, and check out how tight this is. 3, 4. Check these ones. Oh my God. It's like, how tight were those last 2 stabs? Right, one more before we move on to tip 3. A bit of Soul Power by Maceo and the Macks, because I love this riff. I don't think it's on the original James Brown version. What a pocket. ba dee da ba ba do ba ba do ba 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 da ba ba da ba da. And everyone is just like that. So good. All right. So that takes care of tip 2, which is everyone in the horn section has to pay attention to the basics of what they're doing. Now, I've got an awesome free gift for you guys. It's my Funk Soul Medley practice play along. If you just go to, can you see the link? Go that way. getyoursaxtogether.com/horn medley. Just fill in your email and you will have a PDF for E flat. You've got a PDF for B flat. And you've got 2 backing tracks. One is the whole performance with everyone, and one is like a Munich music -1. A Munich -1 is like Germany -1. It's a music -1 where you play the part. Now, you get to play with me and my mate Simon Finch, who's one of my oldest mates, who's one of the best section trumpet players. So you will know what it feels like to play with like really good horn players. And if you're together with us, then you know you're on an absolute winner. Just go to that link. The link is also in the description. And at the end of this video, keep watching because I'm going to play the Soul Medley for you. I'll put the PDFs up on the screen. Funky Stuff, Superstition, Sajuk, Soul Vaccination, I'm coming out. So I've chosen some songs that, you know, you might play in your band and now you can up the level. And believe me, I am obsessive about trying to get the voicings right, the phrasing right. So you can really take that to the bank. I hope. Enjoy. All right. Final main tip is to listen harder, okay? So you've got tip 1, make sure that you've got nice, clean, crispy articulation and your own playing is on point. Number 2, get that whole section playing the longs, long, the shorts, short. Tip 3 is now to take it to the next level, okay? So this is where you bring in the nuances which are going to bring that X factor to the horn section rather than just sounding like a really good, tight, high school band or whatever. This is where you move to the next dimension of sounding really pro and like bringing that soulful, you know, just chef's kiss level. So when we say about getting your shorts and longs together, great, but how long? How short? Now this feeds into considerations of style. So when you're playing in a funk band, and it also depends on tempo. You know, your shorts are generally going to be pretty short all the time. Okay? However, if you're playing in a jazz band, like a big band, you know, your longs on the beat might be a little bit longer. Well, you're probably not going to be playing that line, but... Okay? Whereas in a funk band, it might be... That was actually twice as fast. Okay, that's funk, and then... might be a big band thing. So, this is where you get the X factor. Are you all playing it exactly the same length? Now, when it comes to playing how short a short is in a horn section, there's more nuance than you might even know. If you're on a low note, if you're on baritone sax, bass trombone, low tenor sax, you need to play the note shorter than the top notes, like the trumpet, because those low frequencies kind of travel further and last longer. So in order for everybody to sound the same shortness, the low instruments need to play shorter. Ta-da! Bet you didn't know that. Right. So when you swell in volume, how much? Is it from nothing to everything? Is it just like a gentle swell? So you can lock that in, the typo there. What shape is the dynamic? When do you bring it down? When are you doing a late swell? Or is it an even swell all the way through the note? For example, are you going... Or are you going... Because they can sound completely different. All right. If you're bending into notes, are you doing a quick bend or is it a really long bend? So there's some bends that will just be like... And there's some bends that will be like... And there'll be some bends where you hit the note and then dip it down. Now, one thing I haven't written there is vibrato. What you're doing with vibrato, you should be pretty careful about using vibrato in a section because you can, again, mess it up if you're doing either vibrato where nobody else is or the wrong kind of vibrato. Now, here's a big one. Where are you placing the note rhythmically? So you might be playing in time, but there's in time and there's in the pocket, and they're not necessarily the same thing. Are the notes being pushed? Are they right in the middle, or are they late? And in a minute, we're going to hear some great examples of that. Intonation-wise, there's being in tune on the green in the tuner, and there's being extra in tune. So if you're on the major third of the chord, you want to flatten it to make yourself sound more in tune. That's just, what is it? Just intonation. I've got a video on intonation, which goes into that. But if you're playing the major third of the chord, you need to flatten your note. And finally, if you can listen as hard as you want, okay? But if nobody else is listening, then what you want to do is go with them. Now, you can see that I've written there, don't be right, but different. Now, this means, well, it says on the chart that I'm playing it 2 shorts and everyone else is playing it long. Okay. Well, if they're not going to change, it's up to you to play it long. So not everybody is going to be listening as much as you. So your job is to make them sound better. But even if they're wrong, like, go with it. Go with the flow. Leave your ego at the door. All right. So that is all the things that you can do to really bring the extra nuance to make your horn section playing. And that's where you go from good to great. Now, I've played a lot of funk stuff so far, but of course, there's many different styles of horn section playing, not least big band jazz. So let's listen to a bit of Cottontail from one of the greatest big bands of all time, Duke Ellington. Check this out. There's a brilliant sax solly, and then when the horns come in, it's just so exciting. Now, it is 1940s kind of sound recording quality, so, but, hopefully you can hear through that. This is cooking. Here come the trumpets. Everybody together. Saxes. Beat that for a horn section in a big band. Wow, it's just insane. All right, what else we got? Another last example. All of Me, Count Basie, of course, they one of the other greatest big bands of all time. And this is the interlude tune that they play, version of All of Me that they play with Sinatra live at the Sands. Another example of phenomenal group horn section playing, pulling the time back collectively to give it that X factor. Starting quiet, making all the accents. Really pulling that back. Oh, how sexy is that? That's just unbelievable horn playing from Count Basie's band. Right, what else have we got? We've got some bonus tips for you. Yeah, you get all the good value here at this channel. I said I was going to be making shorter videos this year. Not so far. Getting whopping value. Okay. Listen, communication and responsibility is key if you want to be a good section player and have a good section in your band. What do I mean by that? Talk to each other! Talk to each other! like the old football soccer coach on the touchline shouting at the boys, talk to each other! So, really important that you communicate and talk to each other in the horn section because, you know, quite often one thing said can make you sound exponentially better. And if everyone's just fudging along like you always do, what is it? You know, if you always do the same thing, you're going to get the same result. I believe it's attributed to Einstein, but I don't think it is Einstein. Anyway, you got to talk to each other. So if nobody else is going to talk, take a leadership role. Go, hey guys, I just want to check something. Are you guys playing that long? Because I feel like I'm playing it short, but we're playing it different. Let's get on the same page. Okay? When it comes to intonation, which feeds into the next point below, ditch your ego, people for some reason are irrationally invested in the importance of tuning to their safety and security and their personality, all right? So if you get a snark tuner, I should have had one, it just clips on your instrument. It's a contact tuner, so it doesn't use the vibrations from the air. It uses the vibrations from your instrument, so you can see if you're in tune while everybody else is playing their note. Very revealing, all right? So, one more time. Go and get your free gift, which is the Soul Funk Medley Practice Play Along, which is a cornucopia of awesome horn lines for you to practice and feel what it sounds like playing in a really great pro section. I'm just about to run the medley right now before signing off. So go and get the thing. Just fill in your email. It's getyoursaxtogether.com/horn medley. Link is in the description. All right, let's run it. Here it is. So I hope you enjoyed today's video. Don't forget to go and get your free resource. And if you want to get a bit more of me in your life and a bunch of other really cool saxophone players, go and check out the Inner Circle membership. There's a free trial, 7 days. You can check it all out for nothing. That is where I live. That is where you're going to get access to me all the time if you like what I do and you think I can help your saxophone playing, which I'm pretty sure I definitely can. Go and check out the Inner Circle. It's super awesome. And don't forget to download that PDF and that backing track package so you can really up the game on your horn section stuff. Until next week, make sure you practice hard, practice smart, and enjoy your music. If you want to with your horns, we're gonna big band jazz, big band. If you want to